Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Jeff Lyons here. He's a founder at StoryGeeks.com. We're going to talk about stories today because I'm not that good at telling stories. I'm actually, AI is helping me improve my storytelling content style nowadays. But Jeff's pretty good at that. He writes movies and TV shows, I guess. Traditionally published author, story dev code, jiu-jitsu addict. So sharing that with the last guest here.
Yeah, I heard that.
This pod is presented to you by podpar.com. That is my podcasting company. If you want to start a pod and monetize it, I help you do that. You can get cash through YouTube AdSense, through lead generation with your podcast, and also through sponsors that will pay you. So you can go on my website, podpar.com. We have a free ebook there and a masterclass if you want to accelerate your learning in terms of podcasting. Jeff, aka JL, tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Oh boy. Well, I'm a teacher and a professional writer. I work mostly in the movie and TV business. Have been in and out of it for 35 years, I guess. And started StoryGeeks back in 2006 because I got a hair up my butt about process. And I discovered over time, usually through my own writing, that writers are really good at writing, but they're really lousy at storytelling. And this was before all the content marketing stuff around story branding and all that began to get developed. And I developed my own proprietary, processes and methodologies to help writers become more productive on the story side. I'm not a creative writing guy. I don't teach creative writing. I'm not interested in people's writing. I'm interested in their skill sets as storytellers. And that crosses lots of boundaries, not just, creatives in terms of Hollywood and novel writing and so on. That's also now a really big deal in branding and just selling your stuff, because traditional advertising isn't working the way it used to. And nowhere do we see that more than on the streaming channels, on the streaming networks. They're all scrambling to try to figure out strategies and how to get around the fact that everybody's hitting skip.
Yes.
So it's we can talk more about that, because I'm really interested in the business side of the business, not just the content creation side from a creative perspective. But my evolution has been from just wanting to be a working writer, which I am, into actually teaching. I teach several courses at Stanford University through writers.com, where I teach my methodologies and my approaches to storytelling and how to build a story, what a story is, et cetera, et cetera.
And what is your story when you pitch clients? Isn't that like the best pitch, starting with a story that is captivating for them?
Yes. And what I usually, the distinctive thing that I use to sell myself in branding is this whole idea that creative writing and storytelling are two different talents, two different skill sets. And that most writers are good, most creatives are good at one, but they suck at the other. And I'm very good at the other. I'm a good writer, but I'm a really good story guy. And that it's a skill, and any skill can be taught. You don't have to be a genius. It's a skill. Skills can be taught. You may not be the greatest storyteller in the world, but I can certainly assure you, no guarantees, there are no guarantees anywhere, but I can assure you your skills will get better when you understand the processes and ideas that not just that I teach, but there are lots. The story guru space is a very busy and loud zoo. Okay, there's lots of people out there shilling their stuff, selling their snake oil, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got a new process. Everybody's got the new latest, greatest, whatever. I hate secret sauce. I hate the 7 secrets to this and all of. There are no secrets. Okay, there are no secrets, but there are skills, and anybody can learn them. And this is a clue for anybody who's trying to think, well, what guru should I go to? Don't go to any guru. Okay, ignore the gurudom. Okay, you are your own guru. You You're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. That's just the way it goes. Whether you're buying a new car, getting a new therapist, or finding a teacher around a specific skill set, you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. So find what works, use it, get rid of everything else that doesn't. You are your own guru. And that's really what I teach, is creative independence for people, so that they're not drinking anybody's Kool-Aid, including mine.
That doesn't sound real profitable. Tell us a story. Tell us a great story that you have, and then let's dissect the aspects of it and also the skills needed to tell such a story.
Well, let's see. I have one story that is up on my Amazon author page. It's called Terminus Station. It's a novella. So it's about 70 or 80 pages, something like that. And it's about a guy who is caught between worlds. So it's a kind of a weird Tales, Twilight Zone-y kind of thing. And my departure point for being able to tell a good story is the very definition of what a story is. As generic as this is going to sound, this is the thing. A story is about a journey of a human being on a journey of change, where they're different at the end than they are at the beginning. It's that simple, folks. Oh, well, God, how we heard that a billion times. Yeah. And there's a reason why, because it works. If it's not doing that, if it's not about a person on a journey of change, I don't care whether it's The Godfather, I don't care whether it's, Mickey Mouse, it's not a story. It's something else. It's called a situation, okay? And nothing wrong with situations, but they're not stories. This story is about a guy who is definitely on a journey of change, and he basically encounters this, like a ghost train in the middle of the night. And there's a single woman sitting on the train, and he becomes enamored and addicted to her. And she comes back. The train goes back and forth, back and forth. It's based on a true ghost story from Sweden about a train in Stockholm, actually. And he gets sucked into her world and ends up taking her place on the train at the very end of the story, lost in this limbo of going back and forth, looking for the next person to take his place. And it's all about this guy not being able to get a life. That's his problem. That's the thing in him that has to change. And he gives himself over to this other force and sacrifices his own life so somebody else can have a life. And she gets her life back. And he's hoping this will happen for him at the end. And it kind of does, but not really. But it's all about, so in order to write a story like that, you must understand who's the protagonist. You must understand what is their moral problem. How are they grappling with right and wrong in themselves and in the world? And how are they getting in their own way to create more problems for themselves, making bad choice after bad choice after bad choice? Take The Godfather, perfect example. Michael Corleone seems to be a really great guy at the beginning of the movie. He's a family man. He's a hero from the war. He's got a really cool family, even though he doesn't really want to be a part of it. He really wants to be a part of it. That's his problem, is that he's been pushed outside the family by The Godfather when he was a kid, because they wanted to have a senator elected who wasn't affected by the family business, blah, blah, blah. So a strategic decision to keep him isolated emotionally. The whole movie is about him getting back into the family and to what line he will cross to get back in. And it's a hell of a line, right? He ends up killing everybody, right? He turns into a monster. You must understand the dynamic going on in that character's emotions to write that story properly. You have to do that to sell toothpaste if you're branding a product.
Yes, 100%. Like taking someone from one side to the other. My question as a founder and a CEO is, do we need to become Michael Corleones in the process and tell lies or embellish stories that are very boring? Does that line has to be crossed, or can we stay authentic while telling real interesting stories.
There's no rule that says your protagonist in any story has to change for the better. The only requirement for it to be a story is that they change. Michael Corleone changes. He goes from kind of normal to the devil. That's a change. He goes downhill. Okay. King Lear, in Shakespeare's Lear, goes downhill. Hamlet goes downhill. Okay. So you don't have to be a positive new person at the end of the story in order for it to be a story. But people typically, especially these days, because of the nature of the world around us, want more uplifting change stories where people take their power back, or they become better people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, rom-coms, that kind of thing. So no, we don't have to become Michael Corleone, but we do have to see the whole and then fix it. That's the satisfying piece of the storytelling.
So in my case, and in most entrepreneurs' cases in B2B space, it's the rags to riches story, sort of.
Yeah, which we've heard 1,010,000,000 times.
But it still works, right?
Does it?
Yes. Yes. I think most people, well, the thing is, you're never truly wealthy, because even when you're wealthy, you spend on dumb or nice things. For example, you like used nice cars. I like them too, by the way. But yeah, we always tend to set ourselves back to the starting line, us freaky entrepreneurs.
I would suggest this, that rags to riches, I think. Now, hey, I'm not a CEO, I'm not a branding expert, so I'll be talking out of my ass here. But the rags to riches story is an old one. And while, yes, everybody wants money, 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 more, 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 better, 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 if you can reframe rags to riches in terms of relationships, I think that's a more sound ground these days. That it's not about getting the car, getting the girl, getting whatever it is. It's about getting more of yourself, becoming a more whole, complete person that allows for you to bring in more abundance, et cetera, as new agey as that sounds. Reframing, I was a loser, but now I'm a winner. That doesn't appeal to me. But
yeah, just the peace of mind, of spending time with your family at Christmas time, just knowing that you have enough, sort of.
Exactly. That's huge. It's huge for so many people. They do not have peace in their lives.
Okay, so let's say that, I use AI extensively nowadays. Would I start by quizzing ChatGPT that has pretty much all my data? Like, hey, give me 5 storylines about a story I could tell to my audience, and then make posts out of it, review how the story would sound, give it a style, tell it by X author's way. What would be the starting path for me to improve, let's say, my LinkedIn content and tell better story on LinkedIn, or is my audience is, or my newsletter?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I think I mentioned this to you in one of my emails to you, that I was actually developing a class for Stanford on how to use AI tools for creative writing, because I got sucked in, and I saw all these writers who are churning out books. Every 3 months they just churn out books, and they're all using ChatGPT. The prompts they're building are 5,000 words. They're massive prompts, but they're doing it. The problem is, and this may not be the problem in 2 years, but it is a problem now. I think the challenge for real creatives, whether it's your advertising or whatever it is to understand the limitations of even ChatGPT. It will give you good first pass, or even second pass, or refined stuff, but you have got to go through it line for line and add your own voice into it. Otherwise, it's just going to sound homogenized web crap. So It's very great for outlines. It's very, very great for content marketing stuff, for emails and stuff like that. It can find the pith and the marketing text for a quick, one-liner kind of thing or a sales pitch. But if you're getting into real meat, you use it to get the ideas, to brainstorm. It's great at finding directions, and I do that with it. But you always have to go back and rework everything to make it yours. Otherwise, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I've had some of my own AI books published in many fields. I do think it's gonna change, right? Because people and authors, they want to give pleasures to their readers plus get money out of it, and without spending much time. I do think that some of them love writing, and that's great. But for capitalists like me, it's mostly like deploying
Right.
books out there, and these books
Right.
may be useful still for many. But yeah, I do think it's about the algorithm. So in my case, I have a software called bookridegpt.com that I created with a partner, and it takes one's content and it makes a book out of it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it
There's a
takes the
bunch of
human smart and
Yeah.
it scales it in some way. If you're using ChatGPT, well, it will be as smart as ChatGPT is. So then it's an AI race and who uses what tools.
Well,
But
there's Claude,
yeah,
which is a real popular
Anthropic,
one. There's a bunch, and there's a bunch of companies like Publish.ai and your company, and
publish.com looks pretty lame.
Publish.ai is actually the company
Yeah, they
name.
rebranded to .com. So
They rebranded the .com. Oh,
yeah.
So this is a very competitive space now for sure. Because there's a strategy in the creative writing world where there are people who are more traditional. They want to take 1 or 2 years to actually write the book because that's what they want to do. And then there are those who are they've got the machine going. Like I said, every 3 months they've got a book launch, they've got a book editing, and they've got a book in development. And every 3 months they're launching something. And it's a machine. They're not deeply compelling books, but they're very typically genre, science fiction, romance, a lot of sex, blah, blah, blah. So there is that world. And those are the writers on Amazon who are typically making most of the money for indie authors. Again, I'm not judging it. I'm just saying there is a real bifurcation taking place in terms of, writing career tracks. But the problem now is copyright, because Altman and all those guys, they're just blatantly saying they want everything. They want copyright. They want total immunity from breaking the law. And they're going to probably get it. They're probably going to get, if you don't think they're talking to Congress right now about how to skirt around legally the copyright laws of the United States, think again. But internationally, they're going to have a much harder problem because those treaties are going to be a lot harder to get around. The EU is not going to be very kind to them. But it's a battle now for copyright. And as a creative myself, screw ChatGPT. You don't get to use my stuff without my permission. You're paying me royalties, pal. That's the way it goes.
Right. But what if it's a combination of you and others, right? Like, would it be like cents, micro cents on the dollar that you'd ultimately get in a world in which you would be paid the adequate royalty?
You know what? I forget. I'm blanking on the guy's name. He's one of the originators of AI and
Ilya?
No, the guy with the dreadlocks plays the instruments.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, very famous guy, brilliant guy. He has a whole scheme for how the internet can be restructured so that everybody gets a piece of the action. He's got a whole plan about how that could work, so that everybody, it would be dollars and cents, not tons of dollars, but over the course of one's life, you could have an income coming in with that sort of a model. The sad reality is for writers, I've got published books. I've traditionally published books. I make less than $1 a book. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yes, but musicians as well, like I think it's
musicians
a
and musicians as
market.
well.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
it's like
absolutely.
competition, right?
Yeah,
And demand
it's
and offer.
yeah.
I think ultimately, and I'm gonna check out the guy that laid out this whole vision so that everyone can get a share. That would be pretty cool to check
It's
out.
very
People
cool.
talk
Very
about UBI a lot.
yeah.
That could be a form of it, or micro UBI. Yeah, just stuff to get like to track everything once, and second to get
Exactly.
everyone paid. Also,
But
I think that generally the consumers.
the idea for him is that it's based on the idea that you have a social presence. You've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Blue Sky, you've got LinkedIn, you've got all these places where you're posting information. That stuff's getting sold off to language models, to advertisers, to every time something that you created on these social media networks gets sold off to somebody else, you get a kickback. That's the dynamic idea behind it. And it's a really brilliant idea, but I think it's going to be really hard to implement.
Yeah, it's complex, and the GPU needed from that. Like I think
Yeah.
that it's also our human nature, and we're consumers also. So we're also guilty of the same thing. We're pointing the fingers at others, and I do think that in this world there's a positive thing, or sort of positive thing to that, is that it forces you to sell what the market wants, right? But then if the market wants porn and drama, like it becomes pretty unethical for you to sell them that and get rich off that, right? Well, I feel that music and books, it heals the world. Artists are really, really important in that world. They heal or wound sometimes, and we should definitely pay them for that. But I don't know why we're so selfish, right? Like sometimes I'm listening to artists, I'm like, maybe I should donate
It's
stuff to
survival.
them, but
It's evolutionary. It's just survival instinct, to some degree. But
yeah.
the other really big issue with AI, especially in terms of easing up the productivity question of making it easier for authors to, because of Amazon in particular, as good as it is, there's also some huge downsides. Is the discoverability problem. The more books that come out every year, the harder it is for people like me and you and anybody else to get found. The algorithms aren't keeping up with the volume. So someone did a calculation about every year, if we continue with AI productive tools for writing books the way we've been going the last 6 months, they came up with some astounding tens and tens of thousands of books that will be published every year over year, making it impossible for anyone to get meaningful discoverability on the algorithm. So how the hell is that going to start changing? I don't have an answer.
I have an answer. I think Amazon's gonna stop it. They have a questionnaire that they ask you now in Kindle, like, did you use AI? And they're gonna stop that next year. And so is Google with the indexability of AI articles and so forth, and ChatGPT.
With the intention of doing what? Limiting what they publish?
Yeah, if it's AI written, and if it's sort of judged as garbage and a pure marketing piece, they wouldn't publish it. But it's a complex question, I guess. I am using my books as lead magnets as well nowadays. It's like a free thing that people can download, and then I can sell them my high ticket service later on. So I'm like diversified in that space. But it's an interesting convo. Jeff, where can people find out more about you?
StoryGeeks.com. That's my main website. It's got everything there you need to know. You can get access to classes and stuff that I've got. I've got some lead magnets there that are pretty cool. And